Hey everybody, welcome to the Fast Button tutorial where we go over all of the interior buttons and features on the 2022 Toyota Tundra TRD PRO. And in this video, we're generally going to work from left to right, like all of my other tutorial videos. Then we'll move our way towards the shifter and work our way up top to the overhead features, finishing up with the screen. So let's begin. So first things first, I like to start with the smart key. This is a Toyota smart key, so if you have this in your pocket, you can lock the truck by tapping the two lines right in the door handle. To unlock the truck, you just grab the door handle and it will unlock the driver door, unless you have the settings to unlock all four doors when you touch the driver door. If and when the battery finally dies on this, you're not stranded. You just pull this little lever down and the slide out key will come out, and you can use that key to get into the driver door, and then you hold the dead key fob up to the push start button over here while pressing the brake, and the truck will start right up. But it is a hot day and I'm getting a little hot without the truck running, so I'm going to pop this in the cup holder. And to start the truck, you must press the brake. You don't have to hold the push start button, and then to turn it off, you don't need the brake. You just push the button again. And here's what the Tundra startup looks like. Let's begin the tutorial. Okay, so starting with the door, there are auto down and auto up windows all around on all four doors. By pressing hard once, they go down, and by pulling hard once and letting go, they go up. Above that, you'll have the door lock buttons. So the two little nubbies here will signify the lock button, so you don't have to actually look at it. And I have a window lock button with a green LED to confirm. Over here, I have the button for the folding mirrors. It's in the A position, which means it's automatic, so it's going to fold on its own. When I push the button this way, they're going to stay open all the time. But even with the vehicle on, I can fold the mirrors while it's running. This truck does have seat memory for two drivers, so after you've set your seat, going forward, back, up, down, recline, or lumbar support, once you find that perfect setting, there's a staggered motion to set your setting. So for driver number one, I'm going to set it. I first push set, and then I push this number one, and it will be set. That way, when somebody else drives the truck, all I have to do is push this button. It's going to make a short beep, and then it's going to bring me right to the setting that I had. Same thing for number two. If I wanted to set driver number two, I push set first, and then that, and the long beep will signify that the seat memory was set. Down below, like all Toyotas, you'll have a locking floor mat with two little arrows to signify that the floor mat is locked. If the floor mat is turned, if the locking system is turned to not match the arrows, the floor mat is in fact unlocked, and there are two locks. So you'll want to make sure that the floor mat is locked, because that way it's not going to accidentally slide underneath your brake pedal. Also underneath the dash will lie the lever for popping the hood. Moving our way up, we have an array of buttons, but before we get to that, I'll just show you this lever over here. When you pull this lever down, you can actually telescope the steering wheel, lower it, or raise it. And once you find that spot that works for you, you simply push it back up, and it's locked in place. The buttons on the lower end of the dashboard basically control important things that you're going to use every day. So for example, starting on the left, there's a 3-point lever here to control the bed light. That's a little picture of the light on the bed. When it's pushed to the most left position, it's going to be off. In the middle position, it'll only come on with the doors, and in the right position, it's going to stay on all the time. The button here with the A is going to be the automatic high beams, which will have a green LED to light up, which will only be active if the headlights are in the auto position. The next is the electronic release for the fuel pump. The following is a little picture of a speedometer with a light bulb in it. That's going to change the brightness to your gauges. So when you push that, you'll see the gauges get a little more dim, and then they'll go to their brightest setting right there. I like mine one step below the brightest. This will this will change your odometer and trip. So instead of there being a stalk on the glass here, it's a fully sealed glass. And when you push the odometer trip button, you'll see on the bottom left, it'll go through your trips. I'm going to close the door. And by pressing and holding the odometer button, I can clear the trip. It'll go to trip B, which I can clear. Onto the service mileage, so that's the mileage to the next service. And the odometer. Now, I'm sure some of you will ask me about that service mileage. That's something that you can actually change. I recommend bringing it into service every 5,000 miles. Whoever set that may have set it for the oil changes, which Toyota says can be done every 10,000 miles. But like I've mentioned in other videos, I also recommend changing your oil every 5,000 miles or 6 months, whatever comes first as well. That's just my personal recommendation. Lastly, we have the braking assist for when the truck's about to hit something. The reason there's an off button for this is because, say you're backing up towards a trailer or you're actually doing some off-roading and you have to reverse, the parking sensors are going to sense that you're about to hit something and it's going to brake, and it's going to make it impossible to do what you need to do. So for everyday driving, it's very useful, but when you're backing up to a trailer or you're backing up really close to something when you're off-roading, you'll want to turn that off so it's not constantly trying to brake. On the lower level, we have the button for the TRD light bar, which will light up in the front, and it's very bright. I can push that like that and it's going to blink, and the reason it's blinking is because I'm actually not in four-wheel drive, so it needs to be in four-wheel drive for that light bar to be on. Here's a couple dummy plugs in case you want to add on some aftermarket accessories, which is nice. You can just pop these out, run the wires underneath the dash, and you can put on some customization accessories right there. You can probably guess what this is, the heated steering wheel, which now, as opposed to some of the older Toyotas, will heat the entire steering wheel. And when I push this, it's going to activate the power to the back and the bed for running some low power electric accessories. So maybe like a low power heating blanket, Christmas lights, or even a little blender. I wouldn't recommend trying to run power tools in the back. Moving on to the steering wheel. Toyota's changed the look and feel of the steering wheel, which is very nice. And the pads on each side have changed as well. But before we go into the pads, we're going to talk about the stalks in the back. So the first stalk in the back will be for the lights. Just like the last Tundra, we have 4 different settings. We have DRL off, which might be a little hard to read right here. Auto, which means it's going to sense when it's nighttime or I'm in a tunnel or it's dark, and it's going to put all the lights on, but give me daytime running lights. You can change that so there's no daytime running lights though, which is interesting. Parking lights for if I'm parked and I want the interior buttons to light up, and I want the exterior low lights to show so I'm identifiable. And manual, in case those auto lights are just not quite kicking in yet and I want them on now and I haven't had time to adjust the sensitivity to the auto feature, I can just override the whole system like that. Speaking of overriding, when you're in auto, which is where most people will be, the auto high beams will come on and off when the truck decides it needs them. You can now, it used to not be this way, but you can now override the auto high beams by doing this. In the last generation of Tacomas, Tundras, and other Toyotas, if you did this, that's where it was required to activate the auto high beams. But now, as long as the auto high beams button is lit up, you don't have to push it forward anymore, and now you have the convenient way of bypassing it. Say that auto high beam system is just not quite activating fast enough on a dark road, you can click them on right away, which is very convenient and safe. There's a ring here that activates the fog lights. You can even do parking lights with fogs only, say you want to dim down those main beams. Or in auto, it'll save the fog lights for when the auto system puts on the headlights. Of course, you have the left signal and the right signal here, but if you give it a quick tap and release, you'll have a 3-signal blink, which is great for when you're merging lanes. Moving to the right stock, nothing changed. This is just for the wipers. There's no rear wiper, but we have 3 different levels here. So you'll see there's the intermittent, low, and high. When you're in the intermittent phase, there's a ring here, which you can change the intermittency level, and that's going to change how often those intermittent wipers go. So you can control the delay. Once you click down again, it'll be low constant, and the third click is going to be high constant. There's a symbol up top with a little windshield. When you pull this towards you, like the arrow, it's going to spray the washer fluid on the windshield and activate those wipers for a few turns. The steering wheel has all of the buttons in the front and no buttons in the back, and they do light up a nice light blue at nighttime, and it makes operating all of the features in the front very easily. We'll start with the left and work our way to the right. On the left, you have 4 arrows, left, right, up, and down, which are going to operate the MID. The MID is the small screen here on the left portion. This arrow here is going to be the back button, and this is going to be the select button. On some of the menus in the MID, which stands for Multi-Information Display, you'll have to actually press and hold OK to activate. This is Toyota's way of preventing you from accidentally changing the settings to some important features. You'll get the hang of knowing, and sometimes it'll even remind you when you have to hold OK. For instance, it's showing you right now that you need to hold OK to reset. This is going to be to activate the connection on a phone via Bluetooth or make a phone call. And then here I can change the volume to the phone call I'm on or the music I'm listening to. There's 3 different ways I can use this. The first way will be when I'm in the Toyota interface on the main screen, which we call the Infotainment System. The second way, when I'm connected to the wireless CarPlay, I can press and hold this to activate Siri, to which the little Siri orb will pop up and I can command her. And then the third way is going to be when I'm using Google Assistant. So there's 3 different ways you can use that. But moving back onto these arrows, we're going to see what these do in just a moment when we work our way up to the MID. But on the right side of the steering wheel, the main buttons here we have are going to be the cruise control and a couple buttons for the radio. So the gray part of the pad here is going to be all cruise control. The bottom here is just going to be music. So the music mode button will go through AM, FM, Sirius, Bluetooth, etc. If you press and hold it, it's a secret pause/mute button. The side-to-side arrows are going to go through my radio presets. But moving above that, we have the cruise control. There's going to be 2 different cruise control systems in this truck. Not a lot of people know this, but you can still go back to the regular cruise control that we all know. This symbol here with the car and the arrow pointing to the steering wheel, notice the arrow is on the right. When I push that button, that's the first step to activate the cruise control. I'm going to see that little symbol right here on the right side of the MID. I'm going to turn it back off. Now notice what it shows when I press and hold for 3 seconds. The picture of the car disappears and the arrow is now on the left. So I'll just show you that again. Here's the normal. There's the old school. By normal, I mean radar cruise control. And then when I press and hold, it'll go back to the old school. When you're in this cruise control, it's considered a constant speed cruise control, which means it's going to keep on trucking and the safety sense system is not going to stop if you're coming up on somebody. But if I do this, that's the radar cruise control. So when I'm on the highway, that's the first step. I push this button and I press down to set. It's going to show the speed I'm set to on the screen, and then I can increase the speed like this, or I can decrease the speed like that. I can cancel with the cancel button, I can resume, and I can actually cancel by pressing the brake as well. When I'm in that automatic cruise control by pressing this and hitting set, I can change the sensitivity for the following distance between 3 settings: close, medium, and far. The reason this is on the same pad is because this works with the cruise control system and it works on its own. With the cruise control system, this is the lane departure alert with lane trace assist. It's actually going to try to keep you in the center of your lane. It's not a self-driving truck, but it's going to give you a little bit of help. When you're not in cruise control, this is going to be a lane departure alert with steering assist, and that's going to beep when you're going out of your lane and give you a little bit of steering input to go into your lane. The last generation of trucks did not have the actual steering input or lane trace assist, but with the new Toyota Safety Sense, they now have that feature. Do be advised, if you're going out of your lane more than a few times, you're going to get the sway warning, which is going to alert you because the vehicle thinks you're tired. Before we move on to the MID and the Speedo Cluster, we have a couple levers and buttons here. This is going to be your main button for starting the truck and turning it off. Do be advised, since it is a hybrid, when you press the brake and push the button real fast to start it, you may not hear the engine in some instances. That's totally normal. Because it's a hybrid, sometimes it doesn't require the gasoline engine to start. This is just going to be your trailer brake control, where you can control some of that braking on the fly when you're hauling something big and heavy. So we moved on to the Speedo Cluster. On the left side of the Speedo Cluster, we have the MID, which is the multi-information display. That's going to give you some very important information about the drive in the vehicle, and even let you change some settings and see some other stuff there too. Above that, you'll see the outside temperature. And then down below, we'll see the odometer or the trip if we have it set. We have some important information here, which I call the vitals. On to the right, we have the fuel level, gasoline with a little arrow to remind us that the locking gas cap is going to be on the left. And then there's our engine temperature right there. More importantly, you'll see this green ready symbol over here. The green ready symbol means that the vehicle is actually on and ready to drive. The reason why Toyota has this symbol here, and they've had it for a while, is because, like I mentioned, the engine will not always be on when you start the vehicle. So as long as you see that ready symbol, the vehicle is actually on. Not to be confused with when you hit that power button maybe once or twice and this screen is on, you won't see that unless the vehicle's on. For instance, say you hit the battery button 2 times without pressing the brake to turn on the climate control and all of the music features. This screen will light up. It'll give you a couple warnings on that side saying that it's not active, but you won't see this. When you press the brake and start it up with the push start button, this will blink a few times and go solid, and you're ready to roll. Another nice feature is the gear selector. So it'll let me know when I'm in reverse, drive, and if I shift to the left, it'll show me what gears I'm going through right here. Back to drive, or even neutral when I want to go into 4 low, back into park. So instead of looking down at the shifter, I can actually keep my eyes on the road and just glance down really quick instead of having a lot longer of an eye travel, possibly distracting me from what's going on in front. To the right side, which is customizable, I have the battery level for the iForce Max hybrid system, and I have the boost gauge for the turbos. You can change what this screen shows, which we'll see in just a few minutes. And dead center, we have the time and the speedometer with our RPMs. The truck's in eco mode, which is signified by this, but like we'll see when we get to the buttons by the shifter, by simply turning the dial, I can move to normal mode or sport mode. And then once that little screen goes away, you'll see on the speedometer, it's going to say sport right up top. I can change the drive modes while I'm driving, but for saving gas, I'm going to keep it in eco mode, which is going to increase the chance that the engine stays off, saving fuel. Next up, let's do the MID. Like mentioned when we were going over the steering wheel, you have 4 buttons here. You have the 4 arrows with the select button and the back button. Also a quick reminder, on some of the menus on the MID, you're going to have to press and hold to access them, but some of them you can push the OK button quickly. So we're going to go from left to right through the different menus on the MID, and we're going to talk about all of the different features and settings that are inside. So right now I'm using my left hand to go back and forth. So the first menu you'll see light up is that little leaf. That's your eco menu. When you see those little white circles on the right there, there's 2 of them. That means I have menus that I can go through. So there's your distance to empty, your average miles per gallon, which I wouldn't really judge right now because you got to give the truck some actual driving. We're just kind of, it's new, it barely has any miles. But when I go down, I have a distance to empty calculation, which makes sense because I have about a half a tank, and based on idling and just driving around the parking lot a lot, it's calculating that I don't have a ton of miles left right now in the tank. If I use the right arrow, I'll go to the navigation menu, which will show me while I'm driving the street I'm on and the direction that I'm traveling in, which is very convenient. Notice how the RPMs just kicked on because the engine just turned on. When the engine's off, that needle will actually disappear. But back to the MID. If I go over to the right again, the music is off because of copyright reasons, but it'll show me the song and the artist that is playing at that time. This menu is a little picture of a vehicle with an eye. That's vehicle information. This is a technical menu. So right now on the first page, which you'll see we have a lot of different pages based on those circles on the right. On the first page, it's prompting us to select a trailer. It's letting us know that the TBC is not available right now because we're not hooked up to a trailer. But while we're trailing, it's going to show us some of the output here for the braking, and it's just going to give us a quick view of what the trailer braking system is doing. That's what TBC is, the trailer brake control. To the next menu down, or page, you're going to see that there's no trailer selected, so it's not calculating the length, and the status is not active because we're not in trailer mode. If I go down again, there's some more information here not related to trailing or pulling. It's the total time the vehicle's been started, which is about 19 minutes, and the trip distance that we've traveled, which is 0 miles. Down again on the last page, we have the individual tire pressure measured in PSI, and if I push down again, it goes back up to the top page. Now when I push the right arrow, we're going to settings. Here's where things are going to get a little bit more advanced. These are going to be the ones where you'll notice you have to hold the OK button to change the settings. And like I mentioned, the reason they do that is so you don't accidentally push and change things while you're wandering around and getting to know the truck, or if somebody's just playing with the system. LTA is lane trace assist. When I push and hold OK, I can change a few different settings. The lane center I can turn on or off, so that's when I'm in the cruise control. It'll keep me in the center of the lane. I can actually have the alert turned on and off. I can change the sensitivity, and I can turn the sway warning on and off, which is when the truck thinks I'm driving tired and about to fall asleep. The sway sensitivity can be set here between 3 different sensitivities, so if I'm more of a tired driver, I might want to turn that sensitivity up, especially if I'm traveling, let's say a couple hours from the city up to the suburbs, and it's been a long 18-hour shift. I might want to turn that up so that if the truck senses I'm getting a little tired, it'll alert me to take a break. If I push down again, it goes back up to the top. Now I'm going to push that back button on the pad on the steering wheel, and now we can go down to the pre-collision system. That's the system on Toyota Safety Sense that's going to actually sense if you're coming on really hot on somebody, you're coming in fast, or an object or a person, and you're not braking, and it calculated that a collision is imminent. It's going to alert you very fast with a flashing orange screen that says brake in big white letters, and if you don't brake in time, it's going to brake for you and try to mitigate the collision. But if I push and hold OK, I can change the sensitivity. That's about it. I'll push the back button. I can turn it on and off like this, which it gave me a warning. And notice I get an orange light up symbol here, letting me know that the pre-collision system is off. But I'm going to turn that back on. Next is blind spot monitor. If I press and hold OK, I can change the brightness and the sensitivity to the system. I'm going to push the back button. If I do a short push on the OK button, I can turn it off. But when I push the OK button quick again, it'll turn it on, and the orange lights on the mirrors will light up for a moment. I'll show you again. That way I can do a quick bulb check, showing that the orange lights actually work. If you use that system, you want to do a bulb check once in a while. The P with the little object. Now you'll see that little object there, it looks like a cone. It's also going to resemble the object here for the automatic braking. This is your parking sonar. Some people call it parking assist. This is the feature that's going to beep faster and faster as you approach objects, and then go to a solid beep right as you're about to hit it. The button down below is the feature that's going to actually brake if you're really about to hit it. If I push and hold OK, I can change the volume, and that's about it. But if I push the OK button quickly, I can turn it off. It's important to have the ability to turn it off, because if I'm backing up off-roading, or I'm backing up to a trailer and I don't want that thing beeping at me, I can turn that off. But what's great is, instead of finding this in the menu, which is not super important, I might not mind the beeping while I'm backing up to a trailer. The more important feature to turn off immediately would be the braking feature on that, which is why there's a dedicated button right there by the steering wheel, instead of having to find it in the menu somewhere. The RCTA is the rear cross traffic alert. This is the feature that's going to give you a quick 3 beep beep over and over again when the truck senses cars driving, and sometimes people walking behind you. It's going to detect motion when you're in reverse, and that's an important feature because if you're reversing and the light on the backup camera is hard, it's like glaring, or you got mud on your backup camera and you can't really see well, it's going to do some motion sensing for you so you can stop the truck and see what's going on. If I push and hold OK, I can just about change the volume, and that's it. But if I push the OK button quickly, I can turn it off or back on. Road sign assist is the RSA. I can push and hold the OK button here to change the notification method and level. So I can do above speed limit or others. Video and audio, only visual, and no notification. I like only visual. And then above the speed limit means when you're going above the speed limit, you can actually make the vehicle like beep at you. I select visual only. You'll see a little picture of the speed limit sign on the MID, and it'll have an orange border when you're going over the speed limit. So I'm pushing the back button. All right, customize right side. When I push and hold OK, that means the right side of the screen. So like I mentioned earlier, you can customize the right side of the screen. The boost gauges, I can change the pitch and roll for off-roading. So that'll show you my pitch and roll. I call it a tack angle, but it's technically pitch and roll. So like your side-to-side motion when you're off-roading, you can see that, which is really nice. I can do the tow gauges, which will give me some really important information, like some vitals, battery level, and boost. It makes me press and hold OK every time, or I can turn that off, which gives it a much more streamlined look. And I can even turn this off, which you'll see soon, which will be just a speedometer for people that might be a little overwhelmed or they don't want the busy look. But I like those boost gauges, so I'm going back up to the boost. I think that's really cool. Trailer settings. We're going to continue on that advanced MID here. So I can select or add a trailer, add a new trailer, and look at all these different types of trailers: cargo, boat, camper, motorcycle, pop-up, ATV. So say I need to pull a horse. Notice how it's different than livestock. So we would select it, and check this out. I can name it. I can do the ball type. The length. Look at all the different options for length. We're getting advanced here. You know what? I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom so you guys can see, because I know you're curious. That's some horse trailer, huh? Axles. And the brake type. Or I can turn the system off altogether. Then I can save that, because Toyota knows if I'm doing it on this trailer, I'm most likely to do it again, and if I want to, I can save it. And you can save it for all these unique different types of things and trailers that you're going to pull. Hitting the back button, hit it again, and now I can go to the trailer light check, which is going to kind of do like this little system check where it's going to turn on the lights so you can line things up. And here we're on to vehicle settings. I have to push and hold the OK button. Here's the alert for when the tailgate is down, which I think is important. The rear seat reminder, so you don't forget your dogs and kids, or maybe your tools or your laptop. Something, you know, that you don't want to forget is back there. The tire pressure system, setting pressure in the units, identifying each wheel, and scheduled maintenance. Down again is my oil maintenance, which I can reset the data. Usually the technicians do this if you're bringing in to service at a Toyota dealer. And some of the Speedo Cluster settings. So when I push and hold OK, I can change the language, the units, the meter, and I can even change, for instance, I can take the music menu off. Or I can change the info on the drive info menu right here. Pop-up display. Very, very fine changes here. And like I mentioned, I can turn that MID off. So if I turned off the right side and the left side, like I mentioned, you'd have a very clean cut look. I push the down arrow and it pops right back up. And I can go back to default settings. I'm gonna hit the back button. And that's everything in your settings menu. So this settings menu here is a very big menu because we have lots of pages and lots of things we can change. So when you first get your Tundra, take some time to really customize what you think you want going on. And now we're getting easy. That's just the message center that lit up orange when we turned off the pre-collision system. If you need maintenance, if you have low tire pressure, if there's an issue, if it senses something, it's going to store it in there. And then back to the beginning. And that's the tutorial of the Tundra's multi-information display. Let's move on. So we did the features on the door. We went below the dash. We did on the sides of the dash, the steering wheel stalks, all of the technology inside of the Speedo Cluster and MID. We did some buttons by the right side of the steering wheel over here. Now we're moving on to buttons by the shifter. So by the shifter, we have a dial and a lever. Starting with the dial, it will always favor being in drive mode. So no matter what you push, it'll eventually work its way back here. It's going to stay in drive mode, and every time you start the truck up, it goes to drive mode, which is super convenient because that's the thing you're going to use and change most. Like I mentioned earlier, you have Eco, Normal, and Sport. So by turning this dial clockwise, it's going to go up to normal mode. If I turn it clockwise again, it's going to go to Sport mode. Sorry, I overzoomed it. Counterclockwise, we'll go back to normal. And counterclockwise again, we'll go to Eco. You just got to get in the habit of memorizing that position of clockwise goes up the menu, and counterclockwise. See, if I keep going clockwise, it won't do anything. So I got to go counterclockwise to go back. You'll also see a setting here on the screen letting you know what drive mode you're in. It's not going to say anything for normal, but it'll say if you're going into sport or if you're going into eco, which is nice. And then like I mentioned earlier, we'll go back down to eco, and as a reminder, on the speedometer, when this screen goes away, you'll see right on the top, it says what mode you're in. When I hit the tow haul, it's going to prompt me to set up my towing. And another way to do that, which we're going to get into, is right here, and this is where I can change some of the settings. Then we have MTS and crawl control. So this is where we're now going to introduce the four-wheel drive. Then we're going to work our way back to these, because we have to use the four-wheel drive to access these. So this stands for 2 high. This is for driving 99% of the time. On the fly, which means while moving, I can push and slide, and it'll go into 4 high. The little 4 high symbol will blink, and then it will go solid. So let me take it out. It's going to blink and go out, and then it's a push slide motion. It's going to blink and go in. See that? Out, in. I can do that while still or while moving. But for 4 low, you have to go into neutral. Then you can push and slide into 4 low, and you will see the pre-collision system turns off, the rear braking turns off for you, and the traction control / stability control will turn off as well, giving you full power to the wheels, no automatic braking when you're in reverse, and no automatic braking when you're going forward. And now it's an orange symbol for 4 low. I like that they chose the color orange because it's warning you that you're in a very, very torquey, rugged, low speed gear. Then I choose if I want to be in reverse or drive, and now I can activate the MTS and the crawl control. MTS is multi-terrain select. When I hit this, I'm going to get a little symbol here with A, and I'm going to use the turn dial to go through sand, auto, which is going to sense for me, mud, or rock. And notice how that little green symbol on the top is going to change for each setting, and I get a beautiful picture here of the type of terrain I'm going in. Please, guys and gals, if you're going to off-road in the sand, learn about airing down and have some good equipment for airing back up. Otherwise, you might catch yourself in a very big headache. The DA / crawl is decline assist control / crawl control. When I push that, crawl control is a low-speed cruise control for off-roading, which means you get to control the braking. See how I'm going through the different speeds here? I'm sorry, you control the steering. The truck controls the braking. So what's interesting is, and I've used this system before, you can see the little symbol here is going to show you what level you're on as well, because once the screen goes away, you're only going to have these at a glance to see what's going on. I basically am on a rugged gravel trail. I put on the crawl control, I take my foot off that brake, and you're going to feel the brakes. You might even hear it too go. It's going to do fine braking movements to really maximize keeping that speed constant when you're in that cruise control system, and that foot's not on the brake or gas. You're just steering it to make sure you're going where you need to go, which is a really interesting and useful feature when you're off-roading. So my off-roaders, if you use something like this, please shout out down below and let me know what you think and how you've used it and what scenarios you're in. Back to the MTS. I can control right there, and it'll turn itself off once I go out of the 4 low, which I'll put into neutral after coming to a stop. Slide into 4 high. It's letting me know the crawl was deactivated, and then whether I'm in neutral or not, I can start driving now and go right into the 2 high. So just to recap the 4x4 system, if you're a little new to 4x4s, there's a saying that I like to say: 4 high on the fly, 4 low, take it slow. Which means 4 high on the fly means I can be driving at 20 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, and just click it into 4 high if I get in a little squirrely sand trail, or I cut off the road onto a gravel trail and I just want to click it in. Super convenient. It's designed to do that, and it clicks right in. You don't have to get out and change anything. The 4 low is the one where you have to come to a stop, put it in neutral, and then put it in. Then when you're done, say you did a little 4 low, you got to keep it slow in 4 low. It's not really made for much more than 25-30 miles an hour. Then you come to a stop, go to neutral, take it out. The 4 high stands for high speed. So the high speed, oh, sorry. There we go. Shifted a little too quick. The 4 high that we were just in stands for high speed. That stands for low speed. Some people think it's like high gear, low gear. Similar thought. I'm thinking about 45 to 55 miles an hour max in the 4 high. If you can go faster than that, do you really need it? Honestly, ask yourself that. And then you can just slide it back into 2 high when you're done. All right, let's move on to the shifter. All right, so onto the shifter. You have a great shifter here that's designed for a overhand grip with a button for the left thumb to take you out of park. Park, reverse, neutral, and drive. Once I go down to drive, I can shift the lever to the left to toggle up and down the gears, which you'll see on the bottom right of the screen here. When I go back into drive, it'll say it right on the screen. And when I go back up to park, in about 2 seconds, you'll see it light up park over here. That's the automatic parking brake applying on its own. This won't light up red like on a lot of other new Toyotas, which I kind of like that they did that in a way, because I found myself looking down to see if it was engaged, but now it promotes you looking up to see if your parking brake is engaged. And as soon as I take it out of park, it releases, and when I put it back into park in about 2 seconds, it re-engages, which is great. When my seatbelt is buckled, which I'll do now, I can operate the brake hold feature. This feature lets me stay in drive and take my foot off the brake while the truck will brake for me. So when I push this, I'll have the green symbol here that says hold. And once I take it out of park and put it into drive only, not reverse, I get the gold one. Now I can take my foot off the brake. But I'm in drive and the truck's not going anywhere. And just by giving it a little bit of gas, you'll see that gold disappears, and when I come to a stop, it reappears, and I can take my foot right off of the brake. Very convenient for the drive-through, but like I said, it won't work in reverse, which makes sense because there's no real scenario where I'm going to be reversing and going again and reversing and going again. And it's not really that safe because then I'll have to remember what gear I'm in before I start going. So they only give it to you in drive, which is very convenient. Also, you have the standard Qi wireless charging right here, and once you put a phone here, it'll buzz real quick and you'll see on the screen that it's connected. If it senses there's any type of disturbance or obstruction, it's going to tell you on the screen and it'll start blinking. And there's a little symbol here which is just reminding you not to put any metal objects like keys, safety pins, paper clips, and change between the phone and the pad, because that could create some heat. And read the manual on the way this works so that you can use it properly. Moving on to finish up buttons by the shifter, I have an array of buttons here, and the first one is going to start pretty much activation of the system for my trailing assist. So when I push this down, it's going to light up, and on the MID, it's going to prompt me to select what trailer I want to use. The next button is one of my favorites. That's my 360 view, but I can actually change some of the views on this camera by selecting the little setting symbol here. I can change the color of the truck. Look at that army green, guys. So that's something that Tacoma owners made a ton of videos about. And when I put it in reverse, there are some settings here that I can change, and this kind of gets in depth. So let me fix the camera angle and I'll show you what all these little settings do. Okay guys, so in reverse I have a split screen here which shows me a bird's eye view with the backup camera, but you'll see down below there's a lot of different views I can do. The little shaded area is going to show you exactly what part is going to be focused on, so this is going to be mainly in the front. So now if I'm going forward, I can see what's right in front of me while I'm driving. And I'm actually in drive right now, which is great. But this was activated by pushing this. So I don't have to be in reverse, I can be in drive for this. This is a great one to see exactly where the curb is so you don't scratch up those nice wheels, maintaining the bird's eye view camera. But I gotta say, this one is really cool because it's gonna show you a much closer view, and I can actually go through a couple different settings here to get really close and see exactly where my truck is lining up with what I'm doing. Then of course I have the bed camera, which gives me a full view to see what's going on in the bed, if anything is flinging out with the wind. But back here, I can actually change the guided lines to turn them on or off while I'm driving. If I go into auto, it's pretty much going to try to determine what I'm doing in select, but here's where the fun begins. Here's the off-roading camera, and you'll have your pitch and roll. You can see on the sides exactly where the rocks are, but check this new setting that pops up. Now I can see all around as if I'm on top of the truck, and I can see the wheels turning, and I can spot myself while I'm going off-roading. So these are some great settings on the 360 camera view button right here. Next to the 360 camera view, I have a button to turn off the traction control and the stability control. So say I'm in 4 high, it won't automatically turn this off like 4 low does. And I want full power to the wheels, I can put it into 4 high and turn the power off to the wheels like that, and it's gonna let me know on the MID. The hazards are right over here, so I just push that down and you'll see the blinking of the hazards. Push it down again to turn it off. And then here's the rear locker for the rear differential. That's gonna be more important for treacherous terrains if I'm really kind of getting stuck and I want those to be locked in. That'll help me get out of some squirrely situations. Next up, the climate control. So on the climate control, you'll see a bar of levers and then another bar of buttons and a big dial and a USB plug. We'll start with the USB plug, which is not really part of the climate, but that's where you'll plug in your phone. It'll operate the plugged in version of Apple CarPlay and give you some charging if you don't want to use the wireless. This is going to be the power and the volume to the radio. And then I have 2 main levers here for the 2 individual temperatures, for the driver and for the passenger. They can have their own temps, or I can use the synchronize lever to synchronize, and I can control the whole truck from the driver's side. Auto is going to make it work like the central air. And you can change the settings so that the AC always comes on with the auto. And then here's my fan speed. But I'm going to keep it low so it's not blowing on the camera. Notice how everything is near its lever. This is a common theme with the Toyotas. And then the mode is going to change my air direction, which is right by its lever. Down below, I have the heated seat, 3 different levels, and the cooled seat, 3 different levels. I can turn the system off like this, or resume it by turning up the AC. Front and rear defrost are next to each other, which makes sense. The rear defrost has defrosting side mirrors as well. And then I have my AC button here next to recirculate, which also makes sense because you want to keep cooling the air that's already cool. I do wish Toyota just put a simple green LED here instead of putting it on the screen, but I still wonder why they did it like this. Not a big deal. And this is the driver prioritize setting for the AC. This will turn off the rear vents. And then the chilled, aka ventilated seat or heated seat for the passenger. We're gonna save this amazing 14-inch laptop that's right here and ready to roll to travel around the world for last, and move our way up to the overhead features. So overhead, you're greeted with a rimless, beautiful rearview mirror with a flip lever that doesn't make it darker, it actually goes digital. And then you'll be able to set 3 different garage door openers here and actually change some settings. So for the settings on the digital rearview mirror, I can use this guy to go through the different menus. This will change the brightness, which you'll see over here. If I push it again, I can go up and down. If I push it again, I can go side to side. And again, I can tilt it. This will zoom in. And this will turn off the auto dimming feature that gets dark on its own when there's lights behind you. This sets up the garage door openers. That just activates them. And then this changes your language in case you're traveling around the world. I can turn it off like that, and then in a few moments, the selections here will go away. Moving up is the sunglass case with a nice soft backing to put your glasses and lenses first, and a simple pusher for the LED lights overhead. By pushing down this button here, that's a picture of the back windshield, and then I can pull on it to close the back windshield. I have a quick push for the shade in case I need some sun. I can stop it midway by just tapping it, then push and hold and release. And I can shade things up a little bit if it's a hot day like today. The moonroof is opened like this, which is going to open up the top half of the moonroof here, and the shade will open up with it. And then I have the safety connect, which is complimentary for the first year. The offsetting for the interior lights, I can set them to come on when the doors open or turn them all on right now. And then simply just inside these sun visors, I have a frosted lens here for the LED light to light things up, and that also will slide across like that to block the sun when it's in those awkward positions. Now let's do the big screen, the infotainment center. So when you first get the truck, you're not going to see this right away. You're actually going to see either a QR code or it's going to say, let's get started, and you tap your language. It'll say, hit your phone number. You'll type the phone number, and then that QR code will pop up. You can put your camera over it and tap the little link on your phone's camera. Or what you can do is you can just answer the text message that it sends to the phone, and it's going to basically link your account to the Toyota app. Once you're connected, you can start your wireless CarPlay, and then you will see something like this. There are no longer any buttons or dials on the screen, so you'll mainly be operating the screen from this little bar on the left. This just gives you the time, your service, and the battery to the phone, and these little widgets down below will prompt you. Sorry, I accidentally leaned against the Siri button on the steering wheel, to your apps that you have right there with a little home screen. But you'll notice there's a little black Toyota badge no matter what. That puts you right on to the Toyota interface. To get back to the CarPlay interface, you simply tap that little C symbol and it'll go right there. And then of course here's your music. And then just trying to protect the video from copyright issues. So here you can start your subscription for the navigation. I would imagine most people would probably favor the CarPlay, but do check this out because there have been some people that signed up for this and they were very happy with it. I just didn't subscribe because I don't own this truck, so I can't delve into it at this time. But working our way down, this will bring us to the phone menu on the Apple CarPlay. And this will give us some current trip information about how long the car has been running, the range, the miles per hour, and some fuel economy, and you can clear the data. And then here we have some settings. So there's the personal information, Bluetooth settings, general settings, so I can turn the screen beep on and off and change the screen sensitivity. I can change the date and time and the time zone. I can do some advanced keyboard settings and language and units. This is where I can set up the notifications. I can enable the Wi-Fi hotspot. This is convenient because I can change the brightness and contrast of the display or turn the screen off as a whole and just tap the screen again to turn it back on. Of course, I can change some camera settings right here. For sound and media, I can do some sound tuning to change the equalizer. I can even display the cover art or turn off the cover art if I want to and change the source picks and do some more advanced radio settings here. I'm trying to keep the video as concise as I can, guys. This is another important menu where you can do some light settings. So you can change the auto headlamp sensitivity, which I mentioned before when we were talking about the headlight stock. So say I want it to be a little more sensitive and come on when it's not as dark. The headlights will stay on for a certain amount of time when you turn off the truck. You can change that right here. And for the daytime running lights, I can actually set it so that I don't have daytime running lights when I leave it in auto, but then they'll automatically come on when it's dark. I don't recommend that though for safety reasons. And then the auto off timer here for the interior lights, which that's set to the longest one. And then they'll turn off automatically. The door control you can change, because most vehicles, when you put it into park, they unlock, and when you put it into drive, the doors lock. You can change that with these. And you can operate the key fob here. You can change the way the key fob works, so you can change the way that locks and unlocks. Boarding and exit, I can change how the seat slides when I turn the truck off. And for climate, like I mentioned when we were in the climate control, you can set it so that when you put it into auto mode, the AC comes on, which is right there. Moving on to settings, I can set my dealer info, operate some security settings, do a software update, and finish downloading some apps. You can even set the truck to search for Apple CarPlay apps that are available on your phone. Now, mind you, this is a tutorial based on the iPhone, and I'm on the 13 Pro. So with the Android Auto, it may vary a little bit, which we could explore in the future. I just unfortunately don't own one of those phones and don't have one available to show you at this time. But I do hope you appreciate seeing some of these features. And for the remote connect, this is where I can set up the remote connect here. But since I kind of did a hybrid account with this truck, it's showing this menu here, which I'm not going to continue on the remote connect. And there we are, back to the Apple CarPlay. I got my text messages, settings. Here's an off-roading app that I use. Some other apps that I use here, here's the Waze and Apple Maps. And that's pretty much the rundown on the screen. It's not as complicated as it looks in the beginning. But like I mentioned, do check out the subscription for the navigation through Toyota, because I've seen that on some of the videos and pictures, and let me say, it's awesome. So there it is, everybody. We finally did it. We did the fast button tutorial, or shall I say full button tutorial, because I tried not to go too fast, of the 2022 Toyota Tundra TRD PRO with the iForce Max. Be sure to check out the review video on this truck, which will be included in the description or the comment section. If you found this video entertaining or useful, please comment down below. I love to hear what people think. I want to give a big special thanks to my subscribers. You guys mean the world to me because I appreciate all of your support on all the videos. And even if you don't own this truck or don't intend to, I hope it was interesting for you to watch and see what Toyota's offering on the new cutting-edge advanced technology in the large truck segment. But I think that's enough for today's video. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.